The night of 1989 settled heavily over New York City, and on the 20th floor of the Impetus Tower, the silence was thicker than the cigarette smoke that lingered in the air. The office of Arthur, founder and CEO of Tech Logos, had once been a sanctuary of mahogany and leather. Tonight, it was a war room. Stacks of manila folders, dot matrix printouts, and crumpled faxes buried the desk. The only light came from a green-shaded lamp, casting a weary yellow glow across tense faces. Arthur, a man in his 50s whose charisma usually filled any room, sat deflated in his chair. He swirled a glass of whiskey, the clinking of ice against crystal a mournful metronome. Across from him, Helen, the company's chief legal and financial officer, kept her eyes pinned to a balance sheet. Her posture, normally flawless, sagged slightly under exhaustion. Thick-rimmed glasses slid down her nose, and she pushed them back with a sharp, irritated gesture. By the window, where the city glowed like a living circuit board, stood Richard, the young operations director. Barely 30, he was Arthur's gamble on the company's future. But tonight, he was only a silent witness to its unraveling. "There's nothing left to draw from, Arthur." Helen's voice cut through the stillness, calm yet sharp as a blade. "The credit line's gone. The bank wants real collateral. Our stock isn't worth the paper it's printed on." Arthur took a long drink. "There's always a way, Helen. We built this empire from nothing, just a typewriter and a borrowed phone." "Empires fall," she replied, eyes never leaving the numbers. "And ours has cracked at the foundation. The investment in Project Orion was a mistake, your mistake." The accusation lingered, heavy with years of loyalty and partnership. Richard shifted uneasily. He knew Orion, Arthur's bold bet on a new kind of software, had been his obsession, his great vision for the coming decade. Now it was the anchor pulling them under. Arthur slammed the glass onto the desk. The red phone, the direct line to the factory floor, seemed to glare at them like an accusing eye. "This isn't the time for blame. We talk solutions." "The only solution the board will stomach is a cut," Helen said, finally lifting her gaze. Her eyes were rimmed with exhaustion, but a spark of defiance burned within them. "A workforce cut. Drastic. 300 families, Arthur. It's all in this folder." She slid a blue file across the polished wood. The sound of paper against the desk was a verdict. Arthur didn't touch it. His eyes, once bright with optimism on magazine covers and at industry conferences, were dull. 300 people? Helen, these are lives. The men and women on the factory floor, people who've been with us since we worked out of a warehouse in Queens. "They'll have no jobs at all if we collapse in 6 months," she shot back, her voice rising. "I hate this as much as you do, but my loyalty is to the survival of the company so the other 1,200 employees can keep theirs." "What company?" He rose, frustration crackling in his voice. "A business isn't paperwork, isn't machines, it's people. What do I tell Oswald in shipping, who named his son after me, that my so-called empire is worth more than food on his table?" Richard sat frozen, torn between Helen's cold logic and Arthur's desperate humanity. "And what's your magic fix, Arthur?" Helen pressed, standing now, face to face across the gulf of the desk. "Will you pull cash out of thin air? Sell your country house? Your sailboat?" The sarcasm stung. Arthur didn't answer immediately. He walked to the window, staring at the lights scattered across the city. Each light a window, each window a family. "Yes," he said at last, voice low, almost a whisper. Helen blinked. "Yes, what?" He turned, eyes blazing with the same determination he'd had in his 20s, peddling radio parts door to door. "Yes, I'll sell it. The house, the boat, whatever it takes, and you will too." She recoiled. "What? My home? My savings? Arthur, I worked my whole life for this. I have kids in college. And them? He jabbed a finger toward the blue folder. They don't have kids? They don't have dreams? The tension was suffocating. Richard barely breathed. This was the breaking point or the binding one. Arthur stepped closer to Helen, circling the desk. He didn't touch her, but his nearness was a plea. Helen, we built this together. I made the gamble, and you trusted me. The blame doesn't fall on the ones tightening bolts. The debt is ours, and we'll pay it. His voice strengthened, conviction hardening into command. Tomorrow, we go to the bank. We put up our personal guarantees, every cent. No one loses a job over a mistake they didn't make. Helen studied the man beside her, the lines carved into his face, the weary fire still burning within them. For a moment, her shoulders sagged beneath the weight of it all, then slowly straightened. She exhaled, long and heavy. "You're a stubborn, reckless idealist," she said at last. But the anger was gone. Only weary acceptance remained. "I know," he answered, with a sad half-smile. "But I'm your stubborn idealist." She gave a small, almost invisible nod. "Draw up the paperwork. I'll call my lawyer." The next morning, the air in Tech Logos was thick with fear. Rumors of collapse whispered through coffee corners. Arthur and Helen never came to the office. They went straight to the bank. Richard stayed behind, trying to hold up a facade of normalcy, and failing. The unease in their faces said it all. Late that afternoon, Arthur returned, alone. He walked through the operations floor, where phones rang and keyboards clattered. He didn't retreat to his office. He stopped in the center, and silence rippled outward. "Everyone, I know there's fear, and you deserve the truth. The company is still going through a serious trial." He paused, the tension mounting. "But hear me, no one here is losing their job. Leadership made a strategic mistake, and leadership will fix it. I will fix it." He offered no details of houses or sailboats, just eyes meeting theirs one by one. Relief, surprise, gratitude. And there, near the door, Oswald from shipping, nodding slowly. That night, Richard entered Arthur's office. The desk was still chaos, but the yellow light felt less suffocating. Arthur was bent over a stack of documents, signing with a steady hand. They were the mortgage papers for his home. "You didn't have to do this," Richard said softly, in awe in his voice. "We could have made the cuts. The company would have survived." Arthur didn't look up. His pen scratched steadily. "A company can survive debt, Richard. It can't survive a broken soul." He paused, meeting the young man's eyes. "The worth of a leader isn't measured by profits on the mountaintop, but how he brings everyone safely through the valley." He set the pen down. On the table lay one final sheet, his letter of resignation, required by the bank to renegotiate under new management. The lesson wasn't spoken, yet it echoed in the silence, etched in ink across the page.